The dashboard clock glowed green against Jack Rivers's weathered face. 2:17 in the morning. His Harley cut through the dead Arizona suburb like a blade through old flesh. This was the kind of neighborhood where hope had
It's all
come to
right.
dawn and
You're
nobody
safe now.
bothered attending the
I'm
funeral.
scared.
I know,
Foreclosure
but
signs
you're
stood
very
on
brave.
every third
Okay.
lawn. Boarded windows stared back like blind eyes. Street lights that had stopped working months ago left pools of darkness between
All
scattered
right, this is
mercury
it.
vapor lamps
We move now.
that still
The
remembered
numbers
their
look
purpose.
solid. Good.
Jack should not
No
have been on
mistakes.
this road. His usual route ran 8 miles east along the well-lit highway where the world still pretended to function, where gas stations stayed open all night and the occasional trucker passed by with a wave, where civilization maintained its thin veneer even at 2 in the morning. But 8 hours ago, he had stood in a cemetery watching them lower his nephew Jesse into the ground. 8 years old, 3 foster homes in 11 months. The last placement had put the boy with a man whose temper burned hotter with every bottle. The system knew. 3 reports had been filed. 3 reports had been buried beneath paperwork and budget concerns and caseworkers who had stopped caring somewhere around their 100th broken child. Now Jesse was in the ground, and Jack needed the darkness tonight, needed to feel the emptiness of abandoned streets, needed to ride through the corpse of the American dream and let the engine's roar drown out the voice in his head that kept asking the same question over and over. Why do we let this keep happening? Nature called with the insistence that comes from 6 cups of truck stop coffee and too many miles between rest stops. Jack pulled off beside an abandoned house, paint peeling like diseased skin, porch sagging in the middle like a broken back. The yard had surrendered to desert weeds months ago. He swung off the bike and walked toward the side yard. That was when he heard it. A whimper. Not quite human, not quite animal, something in between. The sound of suffering that had forgotten how to scream. Jack's eyes adjusted slowly to the deeper darkness behind the house. The shape materialized from shadows like a nightmare given form. A doghouse. Rotting wood barely large enough for a medium-sized retriever. The roof collapsed on one side, the entrance a black mouth that seemed to swallow light, and inside, curled into a ball so tight it seemed impossible for a human body to achieve, was a child. A boy. 8 years old, maybe 9. Impossible to tell because malnutrition had stolen the softness from his face, left behind cheekbones that jutted like accusations, hollow eyes sunk deep into skull, skin stretched tight over bone. He was pressed against a German shepherd that looked like it had not eaten in weeks, ribs visible even in darkness, but the dog was still positioned protectively around the child, still trying to give warmth that its own failing body could barely generate. Jack did not breathe, could not breathe. The air had turned solid in his lungs. The boy's eyes opened. And in that moment, Jack Rivers, who had seen things that would break most men, who had buried friends and enemies alike, who had lived through his own childhood in 7 different foster homes where love was a foreign language, nobody spoke, felt something crack open in his chest. Because the boy's eyes held nothing. Not fear, not hope, not even despair. Just emptiness. The flat, dead gaze of someone who had stopped expecting anything from the world, who had learned that reaching out only got you hurt, that crying brought no comfort, that the adults who were supposed to protect you were the same ones who would destroy you. Jack had seen that look once before. In the mirror. The morning after his father had beaten his mother to death and the system had placed 12-year-old Jack in his first foster home. The morning he realized that the world was a place where mothers died and nobody came to save you. "Hey," Jack said softly, crouching down slowly, making himself smaller, less threatening. "My name is Jack. I am not going to hurt you." The boy did not respond, did not blink, barely seemed to register that someone had spoken. Jack noticed the marks then, bruises on the neck, fresh purple, unmistakably shaped like adult fingers. Someone had tried to strangle this child. Recently, within the last few days, and on the arms, older scars. Burns that had healed badly. Cuts in patterns that spoke of deliberate cruelty. Years of damage written on skin that had never known anything else. The boy's ribs showed through his shirt like bars of a cage. "Jesus Christ," Jack whispered. The dog growled, weak, barely audible, but it did not move from its protective position around the boy. "Okay," Jack said, making a decision that would reshape the next 5 years of his life and the lives of 2,800 people he had not yet met. "I am going to call for help. Get you somewhere warm." The boy's lips moved, barely, a whisper so faint Jack had to lean forward to catch it. "Don't take shadow." The dog. The boy was worried about the dog. Something hot and sharp twisted in Jack's chest. This child, starving and beaten and sleeping in a structure meant for animals, his first concern was for the creature that had stayed when everyone else left. "Nobody is taking Shadow," Jack said, his voice cracking, despite 38 years of keeping emotion locked down. "You are both coming with me." Jack pulled out his phone and dialed 911. The ambulance arrived in 11 minutes. The hospital smelled like bleach and broken promises. Jack sat in the plastic chair outside pediatric ICU for 6 hours, watching nurses come and go, doctors conferring in hushed tones. The overhead lights hummed with that particular frequency that exists only in hospitals and police stations, places where hope goes to wait and often leaves disappointed. The boy, Tyler, they had learned from the database, remained unconscious, hooked to IVs pumping fluids into a body that had been running on empty for weeks. The monitors beeped their steady rhythm. Proof of life. Proof that despite everything, the human body wants to survive. Doctor. Sarah Mitchell pulled Jack aside around 4 in the morning. She was 40-something, with tired eyes and the kind of professional composure that comes from seeing too much human suffering. But even she looked shaken. "The bruising patterns indicate systematic abuse," she said, keeping her voice clinical. "Professional, the only way to get through these conversations without breaking." This was not one incident. This was ongoing, possibly years. She paused. Looked at the closed door of Tyler's room. The marks on his neck, strangulation attempt within the last 72 hours. If you had found him even a day later. She did not finish the sentence. Did not need to. "What about the scars on his back?" Jack asked. "Old, healed badly. Mr. Rivers, this child should be dead. The fact that he was still protecting that dog when you found him, the fact that he had the strength to worry about anything other than his own survival." She shook her head. "I have been doing this for 20 years. I have never seen that before." Shadow had been taken to the county shelter. Standard procedure, 72 hours before euthanasia. Budget cuts, overcrowding, too many abandoned animals and not enough resources. The mathematics of a system that had stopped pretending it could save everyone. At 7:43 in the morning, Tyler opened his eyes. Jack was the only one in the room. He had not left, had not slept. Just sat in the chair by the bed watching the rise and fall of the boy's chest, counting each breath like prayer. Tyler stared at the ceiling, took in the fluorescent lights, the beeping machines, the IV in his arm, the clean white sheets, the absence of cold concrete and rotting woe and the smell of his own filth. Then his eyes moved to Jack. "Where is Shadow?" First words, not "where am I?" not "what happened?" not "who are you?" Just that simple question loaded with more weight than any 8-year-old should have to carry. "He is at a shelter across town," Jack said carefully. "They are taking care of him." "They are going to kill him." It was not a question. The boy said it with flat certainty, like someone who had learned that every good thing gets taken away, that love is always temporary, that protection is a lie adults tell. Tyler was sitting up, pulling at the IV. His hands moved with determination despite their trembling. "They have 72 hours before they are going to kill him." "Hey, easy," Jack started. "I need Shadow." Tears were streaming down Tyler's face now, but his voice stayed steady, cold, clinical. 8 years old, and he had already learned to function through grief. He did not leave when Mom disappeared. When Marcus said nobody would ever come looking for me, Shadow stayed. He shared his food with me even though he was starving. "I will not leave him to die alone." Those words, nobody would ever come looking for me. Marcus had said them, had used them like a weapon, had beaten an 8-year-old with the truth that in this world, some children just do not matter. Tyler ripped out the IV, blood welled up, but he did not notice, did not care. He swung his legs off the bed. Bare feet touched cold linoleum. "Kid, you can barely stand." "Then I will crawl." And he meant it, I added. Jack could see it in his eyes, the emptiness now lit by something fiercer. Desperation married to determination. A child who had survived this long by refusing to give up on the one thing that had not given up on him. Jack made a decision. "Okay, let's go get your dog." The shelter was 3.2 miles away. Tyler walked it barefoot in a hospital gown, with Jack's leather jacket draped over his shoulders. Jack had offered to carry him, offered to call a cab. The boy just started walking. They arrived at 8:19 in the morning, just as morning euthanasia rounds were starting. The shelter smelled like disinfectant and defeat, concrete floors, metal cages, the sound of barking that had lost all hope of being heard. Shadow was in cage 47. Death row section. The old German shepherd lifted his head when Tyler appeared, and something passed between them. Recognition that went beyond species, beyond language. The understanding that exists between two creatures who have kept each other alive when the world wanted them dead. That is him, Tyler said. That is my dog. The shelter worker looked up from his clipboard, heavy set, resigned expression. The face of someone who had stopped fighting the system years ago. Cannot release to minors. Need parent or guardian. I do not have parents. Then foster parent, social worker. He is with me. Jack stepped forward, 6'3", 240 pounds, tattoos on both arms, leather vest with patches that made people nervous. The kind of man you cross the street to avoid. You are not his guardian. I am the guy who found him in a doghouse last night. I am the guy who has been at the hospital for 6 hours while your system figured out how to process another throwaway kid. And I am telling you, if you put that dog down, you and I are going to have a problem. The worker's face went pale. The back door opened. A woman in a white coat emerged with a syringe. Young, probably fresh out of veterinary school. Still thought she was going to save animals. 47 scheduled for 8:30, she said, checking her tablet. German Shepherd mix, approximately 8 years old. Tyler moved. Jack had seen bar brawls, prison fights, had spent 3 years in the army watching young men try to kill each other over patches of desert that nobody wanted. But he had never seen anything like the 8-year-old who launched himself across the room, grabbed the syringe from the vet's hand, and positioned himself in front of cage 47 with the needle pointed outward. You are not touching him. The vet stumbled backward. Kid, put that down. He did not abandon me when Mom disappeared. When Marcus said nobody would ever come looking for me, Shadow stayed. I will not leave him. Silence, the kind that fills a room when everyone suddenly realizes they are watching something that matters. Something that will be remembered. Jack stepped between Tyler and the workers. Hey, Tyler, look at me. He crouched down to eye level. Nobody is dying today. Not you, not Shadow. He turned to the worker. How much to adopt the dog? There is paperwork, evaluations. I will pay triple. Cash. Right now. Or I call Channel 12 News about how this shelter tried to euthanize a dying kid's companion while he stood there begging. 15 minutes later, Jack walked out with a boy and a dog that could barely stand. The adoption papers said Jack was Shadow's legal owner. The hospital record said Tyler Morgan was a ward of the state. And somewhere in the Arizona foster system, a file was being opened on a boy whose mother had disappeared 23 days ago. To understand what happened to Tyler, you have to understand what happened to Rachel Morgan first. She was 34 when she got the diagnosis. Multiple sclerosis. Progressive. The neurologist delivered it in a beige office that smelled like hand sanitizer and broken dreams. She was raising Tyler alone. His father had vanished before the boy's first birthday. One of those men who discovers that fatherhood is harder than the fantasy and decides that disappearing is easier than growing up. Rachel worked 3 shifts, then 4, then 5 as medical bills mounted. She was tired all the time, too tired to notice the patterns, too tired to question why a handsome stranger kept appearing at the hospital cafeteria with compliments ready-made, with a smile that seemed genuine, with eyes that looked at her like she still mattered. Marcus Kane was 41, salt and pepper hair, green eyes that crinkled when he smiled. He said he had lost his wife and daughter in a car accident 3 years prior, said he understood grief, said he knew what it was like to wake up alone and wonder if today was the day you just gave up. It was all a lie. But Rachel did not know that yet. The courtship lasted 3 months. The marriage happened at a courthouse in October 2017. Tyler was there, 7 years old, standing beside his mother in a borrowed suit that was too big, watching this stranger become his stepfather. Tyler did not like Marcus, could not explain why. Something in his eyes, a coldness that emerged when he thought no one was watching, a smile that never quite reached all the way up. Give him time, Rachel had said. He is trying. The honeymoon lasted 2 months. The first hit was almost gentle, a slap during an argument, followed immediately by tears, apologies, promises that it would never happen again, that he was under stress, that he loved her, that she had to believe him. The second was harder, the third broke something. By then it was too late. Marcus had moved them to a new house, away from Rachel's friends, convinced her to quit her job, told her she needed to focus on her health, that he would take care of everything, that she did not need anyone else. Isolation is how predators work. Cut off the herd, separate the weak. Make sure nobody is watching when you move in for the kill. Tyler watched it happen, watched his mother's smile disappear. Then her voice changed. Softer, hesitant, always watching Marcus's face for signs of the coming storm. Then the bruises started, covered with makeup, explained away with clumsy accidents. And then one night in late January, Tyler found the note hidden in his mother's jewelry box, folded into a tiny square, hidden beneath a silver medallion she had given him years before. The medallion was engraved with words she used to say when he was little. I will always find my way to you. The note said, if something happens to me, it is Marcus. I found documents about his past. 3 marriages, 3 accidents. I am next. God help my son. 3 days later, Rachel Morgan disappeared. Marcus called the police, played the concerned husband, said Rachel had been struggling with her diagnosis, said she was depressed, said she left for work and never came home. Her car was found at a rest stop 50 miles outside Phoenix, keys in the ignition, purse on the seat, no sign of struggle. Official conclusion, voluntary disappearance. A sick woman who could not face her declining health. Another sad story in a city full of them. The detective who handled the case closed it in 48 hours. His name was Stephen Blake. He would become very important later. Tyler knew it was a lie. He had heard the fight the night before. The screaming. The impact of fist on flesh. The terrible silence that followed. When morning came, his mother was gone and Marcus was making pancakes like nothing had happened. Your mom needed time away. She will be back. Meanwhile, it is just you and me, sport. It was not fun. With Rachel gone, Marcus dropped the pretense. The beating started immediately, always in places that could be hidden, always followed by the same warning. Tell anyone and you will end up like your mother. Nobody will ever come looking for you. You are nothing. 3 weeks before Jack found him, Marcus threw Tyler out entirely. I am done feeding you. Sleep in the yard. Sleep in the street. I do not care. The doghouse belonged to a family who had moved away months ago, left their German Shepherd behind because the new place did not allow pets. Because the banyo was old, bone, and medical bills were expensive, and sometimes people make choices that are easier than they are right. Shadow had been surviving on garbage, growing thinner by the day, waiting for a family that was never coming back. Tyler found him on the second night outside. 2 broken creatures abandoned by everyone who should have protected them. They curled up together in that rotting doghouse, shared what little warmth their bodies could generate, shared the scraps Tyler managed to find in dumpsters. They had been there for 23 days when Jack Rivers' bladder led him off the highway. The clubhouse of the Phoenix Hells Angels sat at the end of a dusty road where questions were not asked and answers were not given. Converted warehouse, reinforced doors, blacked-out windows, 47 motorcycles gleaming in the afternoon sun like the armor of knights who had traded horses for Harleys. Jack pulled up at 3:47 in the afternoon, Tyler unconscious in the sidecar. Shadow curled around the boy's legs, both of them finally warm, finally safe, finally breathing without the constant terror that the next breath might be their last. The prospect at the gate, a kid named Rico, took one look and reached for his radio. Thunder is back. He has got company. Cole Bishop stood in the doorway before Jack killed his engine. 6'4", 260 pounds of muscle softening around the edges, but still imposing. 53 years old. The oldest president the Phoenix chapter had ever elected. Not for his strength, though he still had plenty. Not for his violence, though he could deliver that when needed, but for his judgment. For the ability to see 3 moves ahead. For knowing when to fight and when to talk and when to simply stand witness to suffering and acknowledge that some things cannot be fixed with fists. His eyes moved from Jack to the sidecar, took in the unconscious boy, the emaciated dog, the blood still staining Jack's shirt. Inside, now. The main room was exactly what you would expect and nothing like it. Bar along one wall, pool tables, dartboards, the usual trappings of men who had chosen to live outside society's normal boundaries. But also photographs, not of bikes or women, but of children. Dozens of them, kids the club had helped through toy drives and charity runs and quiet interventions that never made the news. And in the corner, mounted in a black frame, a photograph of a teenage boy with Cole's eyes. Nathan Bishop, 17 years old, dead by his own hand 4 years ago. Suicide after 12 attempts to ask for help. 12 times the system had failed to hear him. Jack carried Tyler to the back room, laid him on the cot, watched Shadow curl up beside him with the last of his strength. When he returned, 46 pairs of eyes were waiting. Talk, Cole said. Jack talked. The funeral, the detour, the whimper from darkness. The marks on Tyler's body that told a story words could not capture. His mom vanished 3 weeks ago. Stepdad kicked him out. He has been living in that doghouse, surviving on scraps with nobody looking for him. Silence. Heavy, dangerous, the kind that comes before storms. Mike Torres broke it. Mike was treasurer, 11 years in the position. Good with numbers, better with rules. The voice of caution in a room that often leaned toward chaos. No, absolutely not, Jack turned. No what? No, we are not getting involved. No, we are not turning this clubhouse into a foster home. The kid has problems, legal problems, system problems. You want to bring that here? You want to invite Child Protective Services and cops into our business? He is 8 years old, Mike, and he has got heat attached. We have enough already. So what do you suggest? Dump him back on the street? Let the system handle it? The system killed my nephew 3 days ago. The words hung in the air. Nobody spoke. Even Mike looked away. Cole had not moved from his position by the bar. His eyes were fixed on the photograph of his son. We vote, he said finally. This is a chapter decision. All in favor of taking the boy in, giving him shelter, protection, whatever help we can provide. Raise your hands. 23 hands went up. Against. 22 hands. Mike's first among them, 23 to 22. 1 vote difference. Cole had not voted yet. The president walked to the corner, stood before his dead son's photograph. For a long moment, nothing. Just the sound of 46 men breathing, waiting. When he turned back, there were tears on his face. Not many people had seen Cole Bishop cry. Not when he buried his wife. Not at Nathan's grave. Not when doctors told him his own heart was failing. But he was crying now. My son asked for help 12 times. His voice was rough, raw, every word costing him something. 12 times he reached out to teachers, counselors, social workers. 12 times the system decided he was not worth saving. They called it falling through the cracks, like he was loose change at the window. He walked to the center of the room. This boy in the back, he has stopped asking. You understand? He is so broken he does not believe help exists. He has given up on the whole human race. His eyes found Mike. You want to prove him right? Silence. My son asked for help 12 times. The system spat in his face. This child cannot ask anymore. He has forgotten how to believe anyone would listen. But I hear him. And as long as I am president, he is under the protection of the angels. Anyone who disagrees knows where the door is. Mike voted against. He called this decision a mistake that would doom the club. In 3 weeks, this same man would kneel before an 8-year-old boy with tears streaming down his face. But before that could happen, something terrible had to occur first. The vote was recorded, 24 to 22. Tyler Morgan was now under the protection of the Hells Angels. 2 days later, Dylan Matthews arrived with a laptop and an expression that said he had seen something he could not unsee. Dylan was 41, 15 years in the chapter, but his value had nothing to do with writing or fighting. Before joining, he had worked for a cybersecurity firm that contracted with agencies whose names came in 3-letter combinations. He left under circumstances he never discussed. If it existed on a computer, Dylan could find it. You are going to want to sit down, he said. Jack sat, Cole sat, even Mike pulled up a chair. Dylan opened his laptop. I started with the obvious, missing persons, medical records, child protective services files. He paused. Let the weight of what came next settle in the room. Sarah Blackwood, wait, no, Rachel Morgan, the mother, she vanished January 27th. Official story is voluntary disappearance. Her car was found at a rest stop, abandoned. He turned the laptop around. On screen, a photograph. A woman in a hospital bed, face swollen beyond recognition. Tubes everywhere. Monitors displaying vitals hovering just above flatline. Rachel Morgan is alive. She has been in Maricopa County Medical Center for 3 weeks, listed as Jane Doe, traumatic brain injury, coma, prognosis uncertain. The room went silent. She did not disappear. She was beaten nearly to death and dumped somewhere she would be found but not identified. Someone removed all of her identification before leaving her. Marcus Kane, Jack said, gets worse. Dylan clicked to another screen. I ran Kane through every database, legal and otherwise. The story he told Rachel. Widower, lost wife and daughter in an accident, complete fabrication. Images appeared, driver's licenses, marriage certificates, death certificates. Marcus Kane has been married 6 times in 11 years. Jack's stomach dropped. Wife number 1, Melissa Harper, Portland, 2007, accidental drowning in the bathtub, 8 months after the wedding. Life insurance, 200,000. Click. Wife number 2, Rebecca Holloway, Denver, 2009, accidental overdose. 13 months after marriage, Kane inherited her house and 300,000 in savings. The pattern was emerging. Clear, undeniable, monstrous. 4 more? Jack asked. 4 more, and it gets darker. Dylan's hands were shaking. 4 of these women had children. Melissa Harper had a daughter, 7. Rebecca Holloway had a son, 9. Where are they now? Dylan's expression said everything. Lost in the system, transferred to foster care after their mothers died. 3 fell off the radar entirely. No school records, no medical records, nothing. Jack stood so fast his chair fell. We need to get this to the FBI. Already ran that analysis. Dylan's voice was quiet, careful. The detective who investigated Rachel's disappearance, Stephen Blake. He is Marcus Kane's first cousin. What? Blake closed the case in 48 hours. No investigation, no interviews, just closed. Dylan clicked through more documents. But here is what made it my blood run cold. I traced financial records. Blake receives payments from a shell company that traces back to Marcus Kane. So does a family court judge named William Crawford. So does a child protective services worker named Patricia Hammond. And so does an attorney named David Foster. Cole leaned forward. You are telling me there is a network? I am telling you Marcus Kane has been running the same con for over a decade, and he has built a support system to help him do it. Hammond flags vulnerable single mothers. Foster handles legal paperwork, power of attorney, property transfers. Blake makes sure criminal investigations go nowhere. Crawford handles court proceedings. Dylan closed the laptop. 147 children have passed through cases handled by this group over 12 years. 47 were placed with guardians who had documented histories of abuse. 23 disappeared from the system entirely. 9 are confirmed dead, though deaths were ruled accidents. 147 children, the number would matter later, would be chanted by 2,000 voices outside a courthouse while cameras from 17 networks recorded history being made, would become a rallying cry for reform that would spread to 23 states. But right now, it was just a number that made grown men who had seen combat and prison and the worst humanity had to offer sit in stunned silence. The silence was absolute. Jack looked at Cole. We need to go deeper. Every document, every transaction, every connection. Enough evidence to burn this whole network to the ground. Do it, Cole said. He picked up his phone. He dialed a number he had not called in 5 years. Reno chapter. This is Ironheart from Phoenix. I need to speak to your president. He paused. Tell him it is about a kid named Tyler. Tell him the Angels are going to war. The calls went out that night, Phoenix to Reno, Reno to Sacramento, Sacramento to Los Angeles, Los Angeles to San Diego to Las Vegas to Albuquerque to Denver. Word spreading like wildfire through networks that normally spent their energy fighting each other. And then something unprecedented happened. Cole Bishop picked up the phone and called the president of the Bandidos, a club the Hells Angels had been at war with on and off for 30 years. Men had died on both sides. Blood feuds stretching back generations. Territory disputes that had left bodies in desert graves. Marcus, Cole said when the line connected, before you hang up, this is not about us. This is not about territory or money or any of that old business. There is a kid, 8 years old. His stepdad almost killed his mom, beat her into a coma, threw the boy out like garbage. And the system, cops, judges, social workers, they are all bought, all's protecting him. Silence on the other end. I am not asking for a truce. I am not asking for forgiveness for anything that has happened between us. I am asking if you have ever looked at a broken kid and seen yourself. Because I have, and I cannot walk away from this one. More silence. How bad? 6 women in 11 years, 3 dead. 147 kids failed by the same network of crooked officials. Evidence of at least 1 child who disappeared completely. Send me what you have. 24 hours later, the Bandidos confirmed. 200 riders heading to Phoenix, then the Mongols. 150, then the Iron Horsemen. 80, then clubs Jack had never heard of. Veterans groups, first responders who rode, teachers, nurses, mechanics, truck drivers, people who had nothing in common except 2 wheels in the belief that some things mattered more than old grudges. 2,800 bikers, clubs that had been enemies for 20 years. People who under other circumstances would not sit at the same table, all coming to one city for one child. But a blow awaited them that no one could foresee. It would come from the very system that was supposed to protect. The army began arriving on February 14th, Valentine's Day, a holiday meant for love and flowers and promises whispered over candlelight dinners. But in the desert 3 miles from the Maricopa County Courthouse, a different kind of promise was being made. The first wave came at dawn, 200 banditos from New Mexico. Their engines announced them from miles away. A rolling thunder that grew louder as the sun broke over the mountains and painted the desert gold. They set up camp in an abandoned lot that had once been slated for a shopping center before the economy collapsed and took dreams of commerce with it. By noon, the Mongols arrived from California, 150 riders. Their leather vests bore patches that had historically meant war when they crossed paths with angels or banditos. But today, those old hatreds seem small, irrelevant, like arguing over property lines while a house burns down. They shared meals, broke bread between enemies, talked about kids they knew who had been failed by systems that were supposed to save them, discovered that pain is a language everyone speaks fluently once you get past the accent of different colored patches. By 3 in the afternoon, the count had reached 1,200. Iron horsemen, renegades, veterans riding in formation like they were back in the service. First responders whose day jobs involved saving lives and whose nights involved trying to forget the ones they could not save. Teachers who had watched too many bright kids disappear into bureaucratic black holes. Nurses who knew what healed wounds looked like and what happened when nobody bothered to bandage them. The news crews started arriving around 4. They smelled a story, 17 different networks, cameras and satellite trucks and reporters with perfect hair trying to understand why natural enemies were camping together in the desert. Jack stood at the edge of the encampment, watching motorcycles continue to pour in from every direction. Cole walked up beside him. Neither man spoke for a long moment. Just watched the sun descend and turn the desert into something beautiful and brutal at the same time. "We are at 1,800 confirmed," Cole said finally. "More coming overnight." "Tyler does not understand," Jack said. I tried to explain. "He just looks at me with those empty eyes." "He will understand tomorrow." "Moan, what if we lose?" Cole was quiet then. "We will not lose the war. We might lose the battle. But wars are won by people who refuse to stop fighting." Back at the clubhouse, Tyler sat in the corner with Shadow. The dog was stronger now. Regular food, clean water. A vet who made house calls and did not ask questions. Shadow's ribs no longer showed through his coat. His eyes had regained some of the light that starvation steals. But Tyler remained distant. Watched the adults prepare for court with the detachment of someone who had learned not to hope, who had been disappointed too many times to believe that tomorrow might be different. Mike Torres approached slowly, the same man who had voted against taking Tyler in, who had called it a mistake that would doom the club. He knelt down beside the boy. "Hey kid," Mike said, "I voted against helping you. Did Jack tell you that?" Tyler nodded, did not look up from Shadow's fur. "I was wrong," Mike continued. "I was scared, selfish, worried about what helping you might cost us. I forgot that some things are worth any cost." Tyler's fingers kept stroking Shahib's ears. "I'm sorry," Mike said, "for voting against you, for thinking that protecting ourselves mattered more than protecting you. You deserve better from me." Tyler looked up then, met Mike's eyes. "You are here now," Tyler said quietly. "That matters." It was the first time Tyler had spoken more than 3 words together since the hospital. The first crack in the wall he had built around himself. Mike felt something break inside his chest, nodded, could not trust his voice to say more. Rachel Torres arrived that evening. She was 37, former prosecutor turned defense attorney. She had seen the viral video Jack posted, 3 million views in 48 hours. Comments exploding with people sharing their own stories of system failure. She had called Cole and volunteered. Pro bono, no fee. Because some cases you take for money and some you take because if you do not, you will never be able to look at yourself in the mirror again. She spent 3 hours reviewing Dylan's evidence, financial records, shell companies, payment trails, the pattern of 6 marriages and 3 deaths and children disappearing into bureaucratic void. When she finished, she sat back and stared at the wall. "We have enough to prosecute," she said finally. "More than enough. But in Judge Crawford's courtroom?" "What does that mean?" Jack asked. "It means he will block everything, sustain every objection, exclude evidence on technicalities. We need to go in expecting to lose the battle so we can win the war. Explain. We need cameras in that courtroom. We need the whole country watching. When Crawford rules against us, and he will, the public outcry will force intervention, federal investigation, real accountability. Dillon was already setting up the live stream, social media coordination, evidence packets prepared for the FBI. The moment Crawford delivered his ruling, the full case file would go to federal agents who had been waiting for exactly this kind of smoking gun. What about Tyler? Jack asked. Does he have to testify? Probably not, Rachel said. Crawford will find a way to prevent it. Say he is protecting the child from courtroom trauma. Really, he is protecting Marcus from having to face what he did. She paused. But we should prepare Tyler anyway, just in case. Tyler sat with Rachel for an hour. She explained what court would be like. The judge in black robes, the lawyers asking questions, Marcus sitting there in a suit looking like a victim instead of a monster. Will Shadow be there? Tyler asked. No, sweetheart. They do not allow dogs in courtrooms. Tyler's hand went to the medallion around his neck, the silver disc his mother had given him. I will always find my way to you. Will Marcus be there? Yes. Tyler was quiet for a long moment, then, okay. Just that. Okay, like he was agreeing to go to the dentist or eat vegetables. Like facing the man who had tried to kill his mother and thrown him away like trash was just another thing to endure. 8 years old and already resigned to suffering. The morning of February 15th arrived cold and clear. By 6 in the morning, every street within 3 blocks of the courthouse was filled with motorcycles. 1,200 riders standing beside their bikes, arms crossed, faces grim, absolute silence. No engines running, no conversations, just the presence of 1,200 people who had come to bear witness, to say with their bodies what words could not capture. You cannot do this in the dark anymore. We are watching. The news crews were already set up. 17 cameras, CNN van, New York Times reporters, aerial drone footage capturing the scope of what was happening. A circle of motorcycles surrounding the courthouse like a wall, like protection, like judgment. At 8:45, a black sedan pulled up. Marcus Kane stepped out. Charcoal suit, $3,000, hair perfect, smile calibrated to project grief and confusion and victimhood. He looked exactly like what he claimed to be. A stepfather worried about his troubled stepson, a husband grieving his missing wife, a man being victimized by a motorcycle gang with a vendetta. He took one look at the wall of bikers and his smile flickered. Just for a second, just long enough to reveal the calculation underneath. Then he recovered, straightened his tie, walked up the courthouse steps with his attorney, David Foster, at his side. Inside, the courtroom was packed, half bikers in suits and ties, men who owned exactly one suit and had not worn it since the last funeral, half journalists and curious citizens who had followed the viral story. Everyone wanting to see how this would end. Tyler sat between Jack and Rachel Torres. Shadow was back at the clubhouse with Mike. Tyler had not wanted to leave the dog, but understood this was something he had to do alone. Judge William Crawford took the bench at 9 exactly, 63 years old, silver hair. Permanent expression of mild contempt. 19 years on the bench. Reputation for efficiency and no-nonsense rulings. And according to Dillon's research, over $200,000 in donations from Marcus Kane's network funneled through charitable foundations. The hearing lasted 3 hours. Rachel Torres presented evidence with precision. Medical records showing Tyler's injuries. Dr. Sarah Mitchell's testimony about systematic abuse patterns. Photographs that made people in the gallery gasp and look away. The note Rachel Morgan had hidden in her jewelry box. 3 marriages, 3 accidents. I am next. Dr. Mitchell took the stand, described strangulation marks within 72 hours of discovery, pattern of abuse over years, malnutrition indicating prolonged neglect. Her voice stayed clinical, but her hands shook when she described what she had seen. This child nearly died, she said. If Mr. Rivers had found him even 1 day later, we would not be having this conversation. Tyler Morgan would be dead. The photographs were entered into evidence. Tyler's bruised neck, the perfect outline of adult fingers, old scars healed badly, before and after weight comparisons showing what starvation does to an 8-year-old body. Rachel's voice was steady as she built the case. Your Honor, this is not a custody dispute. This is a matter of child endangerment. Tyler Morgan was found near death, abandoned in a structure meant for animals. His mother is in a coma with traumatic brain injuries sustained the night she disappeared. The evidence clearly shows a pattern of abuse and attempted murder. Crawford interrupted. Counselor, I will determine what the evidence shows. David Foster countered with character witnesses, neighbors who said Marcus was a devoted stepfather, church members who called him a pillar of the community. Detective Stephen Blake's statement confirming no criminal charges had been filed. Everything carefully orchestrated, every witness prepped, every word designed to paint Marcus as the real victim. Then Patricia Hammond took the stand. She was 52, 20 years in child protective services, graying hair pulled back in a bun, the face of someone who had learned to look concerned without actually caring. She raised her right hand and swore to tell the truth. I personally investigated the Kane household, she testified. Found it to be a loving, stable environment. No evidence of abuse. Rachel stood for cross-examination. Ms. Hammond, are you aware of 11 previous complaints filed regarding Marcus Kane? No record exists of such complaints. Rachel produced documents. Pages and pages. Official CPS letterhead. These are copies of those exact complaints, dated over 18 months. Your signature appears on 6 of them, marking them as unfounded. Hammond's face went pale, but she recovered quickly. Those must have been misfiled. Misfiled? 11 separate complaints all misfiled? Objection, Foster said. Counsel is badgering the witness. Sustained, Crawford said without looking up. Rachel tried again, presented the complaints, pointed to signatures, dates, details that could not be explained away by filing errors. Crawford interrupted 17 times. Sustained every objection Foster raised. Excluded half of Rachel's evidence on technicalities. When Rachel tried to enter financial records showing payments from Marcus to Hammond, Crawford ruled them inadmissible. When she attempted to question the pattern of Marcus's previous marriages, he shut her down. When she asked to present testimony from relatives of the deceased wives, he denied the request. The fix was in. Everyone in the courtroom could see it. 1,200 bikers outside could feel it. 17 news cameras were recording every corrupt ruling for the world to see. At 12:15, Crawford delivered his ruling. This court finds insufficient evidence to support allegations of abuse. The petition for restoration of custody is granted. The minor child Tyler Morgan is ordered returned to the care of his stepfather Marcus Kane within 24 hours. Failure to comply will result in criminal charges. The gavel came down like a gunshot. The courtroom erupted. Bikers on their feet shouting objections. Rachel demanding an emergency stay. Journalists recording everything. Chaos. But it was Tyler's reaction that stopped everything. He did not scream, did not cry, did not collapse. He simply went away. His eyes, which had finally started showing signs of life over the past 2 weeks, went flat. Empty. The same look from the doghouse. The look of someone who had learned once again that hope is just another word for disappointment. Marcus walked over to where Tyler sat. Jack stood immediately, but Rachel put a hand on his arm. Cameras were watching. They needed to let this play out. Marcus leaned down, voice pitched low enough that microphones could not catch it. Thank you for taking care of him. I appreciate you feeding him, getting him healthy. He leaned closer. I will be picking him up tomorrow. And the dog? I will be taking that too. Always wanted to see what happens when you put a German Shepherd down. Might let Tyler watch. Jack's fist clenched so hard the leather glove creaked. Every muscle in his body screamed to grab Marcus by the throat and finish what should have been done weeks ago, but Rachel's hand stayed firm on his arm. Cameras, witnesses, the long game. Marcus straightened, louder now for the cameras. 24 hours, enjoy them. He walked out past the silent bikers, past the cameras, past the journalists writing furiously in notebooks. His smile never wavered. Back at the clubhouse, the mood was funeral. Bikers sat in silence trying to process how the system could fail so completely, how a judge could look at that evidence and rule in favor of a monster, how justice could be so thoroughly corrupted that it became indistinguishable from its opposite. Tyler had not spoken since the ruling. He sat in the corner with Shadow, stroking the dog's fur with mechanical movements. No expression, no tears, just the quiet acceptance of someone who had always known this was how it would end. Jack wanted to break something, wanted to ride to Marcus's house and deliver the kind of justice that did not need courtrooms or judges or rules. Wanted to make Marcus feel every bit of pain he had inflicted on Tyler and Rachel and all the others. But Cole had been clear from the beginning, legal or not at all. The moment they stepped outside the law, they became the villains, gave the system an excuse to shut them down and bury Tyler even deeper. So Jack sat on the floor next to the boy who had trusted him. I am sorry. I promised we would win. I failed you. Tyler said nothing for a long time. Then, in a voice so flat it made Jack's heart hurt, there will not be an appeal. He will kill Mom, take me somewhere no one will find, make me disappear like the others. Pause. I should have jumped. Jack did not understand at first. Then he remembered. The bridge, the conversation they had never finished. Tyler standing on that railing with nothing below but rocks and ending. Before Jack could respond, his phone buzzed. Text from Dylan. 3 words. Emergency, war room, now. Jack found Tyler that night by following the blood. Shadow had woken around midnight howling, a sound the old dog had not made since the shelter. The sound of loss, of something precious being torn away. Jack followed the drops on concrete, small, spaced far apart, bare feet on cold pavement. He knew where Tyler was going before he got there. The old bridge over the dry riverbed, 3 miles from the clubhouse. Rusted skeleton of iron and concrete, abandoned when the new highway was built. Monument to infrastructure that had outlived its usefulness. Tyler sat on the railing, legs dangling over 200 feet of nothing, the city spread out below. A million lights, a million people living their lives, unaware of the 8-year-old boy deciding whether to let go. Jack approached slowly, hands visible, voice calm. You know, I sat in that exact spot once, Brian. Tyler's heart stopped. He turned, nearly lost his balance. Jack stood 10 feet away. Do not come closer. I will not. I promise. I will just stand right here. How did you find me? Shadow woke up when you left, started howling. I followed the sound, then the blood. Those cuts on your feet are going to need cleaning. Tyler looked down, had not even noticed the pain. I am not going back. Okay. Jack sat down cross-legged on the concrete, made himself smaller, less threatening. Then I will just sit here, keep you company. Silence. Wind howling through rusted supports like distant screaming. I was 17, Jack said finally. First time I sat on that railing. My mom had been dead 5 years. My dad beat her to death when I was 12. Did I tell you that? Tyler did not respond. System put me in foster care, 7 homes in 5 years. Some were okay, most were not. The last one had a father who used his belt for things belts were not meant for. Jack paused, remembering. Even after 38 years, the memory had sharp edges. I sat on that railing for 3 hours, thinking about all the reasons to let go, all the people who had failed me, all the pain that would stop if I just stopped. Tyler's voice was small, broken. What convinced you to climb back over? Nothing. Nobody came to save me. No magical revelation. I just got cold. My hands went numb, and something in me, some stubborn, stupid part, decided that if I was going to go out, it would not be because I could not feel my fingers. He looked at Tyler. I climbed down, walked back, took my beating for running away. Got up the next morning and did it all over again. Not because things got better, they did not. Not for a long time. But because I wanted to see what came next, even if it was more pain. Tyler's grip on the medallion tightened. My mom is dying. The doctor said 72 hours. Then Marcus decides. He gets to kill her legally, and I will be alone. Maybe, Jack said. Maybe she dies. I cannot promise she will not. I cannot promise anything about what happens next. He stood slowly. But I can promise this. You will never be alone again. Not if I have anything to say about it. And the people who did this, Marcus, the judge, the social worker, they are going to pay, every single one. How? They have power, money, the whole system. Jack smiled, dangerous, promising things words could not express. Kid, I have 2,800 bikers heading to this city right now. Hell's Angels, Banditos, Mongols, Iron Horsemen, clubs that have been enemies for decades, who have fought and bled and buried each other's brothers. Every single one is coming here for you. Tyler blinked. Why? Because I told them your story, and because some things matter more than old grudges. Jack stepped closer, not close enough to grab, just close enough to be heard over the wind. Give me a chance, just a chance. Let me try to fix this. And if I fail, if everything goes wrong and your mom does not wake up and the bad guys win, then I will come back to this bridge with you myself. I will sit right there and keep you company while you make whatever choice you need to make. He extended his hand, but not tonight, not until we have tried. Tyler looked at Jack, at the rocks 200 feet below, at the medallion in his hand. I will always find my way to you. Maybe this was how she would do it, not by coming back herself, by sending someone else. Slowly, Tyler swung his legs back to the safe side. Jack was there instantly, wrapping his jacket around the boy's shoulders, checking his feet, his hands, his face, making sure he was real and whole and still breathing. "Let's go home," Jack said. It was the first time anyone had used that word around Tyler in almost 2 years. Home. He did not believe it. Not yet. But he let Jack carry him to the motorcycle. Let himself be placed in the sidecar. Let the engine's roar drown out the thoughts that whispered about falling. And for the first time in 23 days, Tyler Morgan cried. Real crying, ugly crying, the kind that racks your whole body and leaves you empty and somehow lighter at the same time. Jack did not try to stop it, just drove through the Arizona night with one hand on the handlebars and one resting on Tyler's shoulder. They arrived back at the clubhouse at 4 in the morning. Dylan was still in the war room, had not slept. 3 days straight, hacking into systems that were supposed to be unhackable, following digital trails that had been carefully hidden, finding the one thing that Marcus and his network had missed. "I got into Hammond's phone," Dylan said when Jack walked in. Tyler was asleep on the cot with Shadow. Finally peaceful. Finally safe. "Took 3 days, but I am in. You are not going to believe what I found." He turned the laptop around. The image made Jack's stomach lurch. A photograph. The living room of Marcus Kane's house. Rachel Morgan on the floor. Blood pooling around her head. Body twisted at an angle that suggested she had fallen or been thrown. And standing over her, baseball bat raised, was Marcus Kane. Timestamp, January 27th, 11:47 at night. 1 minute before her fall. Hammond was there, Dylan said. She did not just cover it up. She was present when it happened. Took photos for insurance, in case Marcus tried to cut her out of the money. He clicked to another screen. Text conversation. Hammond. Transfer confirmed. $2,000. Marcus. Worth every penny. Good work tonight. Hammond. She saw the files, knew too much. Had to be done. Marcus. The boy? Hammond. I will flag him as runaway if anyone asks. Give it a month. He will be out of the picture too. Jack read the messages 3 times, each word sinking in deeper. There is more, Dylan said. Similar exchanges from every one of Marcus's previous relationships. Hammond has been his spotter for 8 years. Identifies targets through Child Protective Services intake. Covers up whatever happens after. Dylan checked his watch. This is enough. FB. Media, everyone. I sent copies to CNN, NBC, ABC, CBS, New York Times, Washington Post, FBI, Phoenix Field Office, State Attorney General, Governor's Office. All of them, sent at 3 in the morning. He smiled. Not pleasant. The smile of someone who had just checkmated a king. FBI Special Agent Rebecca Morgan called 20 minutes ago. She has been investigating Marcus for 2 years. Suspected but never had enough to move. She saw the files. She is on her way with an arrest warrant. The phone rang. Dr. Sarah Mitchell. Jack answered. Mr. Rivers, I do not know how to explain this. Rachel Morgan's brain activity spiked this morning. We are not saying she is waking up, but she is fighting. Neural patterns improving. I have been doing this 20 years. I have never seen anything like it. Jack felt something loosen in his chest. The first breath after being underwater too long. Tyler was awake, had been listening through the door. Came out with Shadow beside him. My mom? His voice was small, afraid to hope. Dylan turned from the computer. Your mom is fighting, Tyler. Her brain is healing. The doctors cannot explain it, but she is getting stronger. Tyler's hand went to the medallion. Held it tight enough that the edges bit into his palm. Tomorrow morning, Dylan said, looking at Jack, when Marcus shows up to collect Tyler, he is going to find something very different waiting. Cole walked into the room, must have been listening from the doorway. Let's end this. Dawn came slowly to Phoenix on February 16th, the kind of desert dawn that starts with deep purple and gradually bleeds into gold. By 5 in the morning, streets around Marcus Kane's house were filling with motorcycles from every direction. Engines rumbling low, headlights cutting through the last remnants of darkness like searchlights hunting prey. 1800 by 6, riders from 7 states. Patches from clubs that had spent decades as enemies now standing shoulder to shoulder, creating a wall, a barrier between justice and the man who had thought himself untouchable. Neighbors watched from behind curtains, some filming on phones, all of them sensing that something unprecedented was happening, something that would be talked about for years. The morning when the forgotten remembered, when the powerless found their power. By 7, the news vans arrived, 17 crews, everyone who had been following the viral story, everyone who sensed that today the arc of the story would bend toward resolution. Cameras set up on tripods, reporters checking microphones, producers coordinating satellite feeds. This was going to be broadcast live. At 7:30, two black SUVs pulled up. FBI. Special Agent Rebecca Morgan stepped out. 43 years old, 15 years with the Bureau, Fraud and Corruption Division. She had been investigating Marcus Kane for 2 years, ever since Linda Park's car accident on an empty highway, ever since the insurance payout that was just a little too convenient, just a little too similar to the pattern that had been repeating for over a decade. But she had never had enough to move. Never had that one piece of evidence that would crack the case wide open and expose the network protecting him. Until Dylan Matthews sent her Hammond's photos at 3 in the morning. Until she saw Marcus standing over Rachel Morgan's broken body with a baseball bat raised like a trophy. She walked to Jack at the front of the formation. Warrant in hand, flanked by 6 agents in tactical gear. I reviewed the evidence, she said. Her voice was professional, but something underneath suggested personal investment. Like this case meant more than just another arrest. Sufficient for warrants, not just Kane, everyone in his network. Hammond was arrested 40 minutes ago, already trying to cut a deal. Foster in custody, office being raided as we speak. Blake suspended, tried to run, picked up at the airport with a one-way ticket to Mexico. Crawford removed from the bench this morning. Wife being questioned about the charity that laundered Kane's money. Jack felt something loosen in his chest. The first real breath in days. Agent Morgan studied him, assessed, decided. What happens here needs to be clean, legal, by the book. I cannot have your people interfering. We are not here to interfere, Jack said. We are here to watch, to make sure everyone sees. She nodded, understood. Sometimes justice needs witnesses. Sometimes the only way to ensure it happens is to have 1,800 people and 17 cameras, making sure nobody can pretend it did not. Stay behind the cordon. Do not approach the suspect. She walked toward Marcus Kane's house. The knock came at 7:45. Marcus answered in a bathrobe. Same confident smile, expecting maybe a process server. Maybe his attorney with updates. Maybe breakfast delivery. What he got was 6 FBI agents and a warrant. Agent Morgan's voice carried across the morning air. Clear, official, final. Marcus Kane, you are under arrest for attempted murder, conspiracy to commit murder, insurance fraud, wire fraud, and racketeering. You have the right to remain silent. Anything you say can and will be used against you in a court of law. You have the right to an attorney. If you cannot afford an attorney, one will be provided for you. For the first time in 11 years, Marcus's smile disappeared. This is ridiculous. My lawyer, David Foster, can't explain. Mr. Foster was arrested an hour ago. Judge Crawford will hear about this. Judge Crawford has been removed from the bench pending criminal investigation. I know my rights. I demand to speak to my attorney. You will have opportunity to speak to a public defender. Until then, I suggest you remain silent. The handcuffs clicked around Marcus's wrists. The sound echoed in the morning quiet, metal on bone. The sound of endings. They let him out. 50 feet to the FBI vehicle. Should have taken 30 seconds, took 10 minutes, because Marcus Kane had to pass through a corridor of 1,800 bikers, all standing in absolute silence, all staring with contempt that words could not express. The weight of collective judgment pressing down like atmosphere at ocean depth, step by step, foot by foot, past banditos on the left, Hell's Angels on the right, Mongols and Iron Horsemen, and veterans who had seen combat and knew what evil looked like when it wore a charcoal suit. The silence was complete. No engines, no talking, just the sound of Marcus's feet on pavement, his breathing getting faster, his eyes darting left and right, looking for escape that did not exist. 17 cameras recorded every second, every network broadcasting live. Millions watching a man who had destroyed lives for over a decade finally facing consequences. Tyler stood at the end of the corridor, Jack's hand on his shoulder, shadow at his side. The boy Marcus had tried to erase. The child he had told nobody would ever come looking for. Their eyes met. The man who had beaten Rachel into a coma, who had thrown an 8-year-old out to die, who had said nobody would ever come looking. That man looked at the child he had tried to destroy and saw 1,800 people who had come for nobody, saw cameras from 17 networks, saw his empire crumbling in real time, saw accountability. Tyler stepped forward. His voice was clear, steady, the voice of someone who had survived hell and learned that survival is its own kind of strength. You said nobody would ever come looking for me. You said I was nothing, that I did not matter. Pause. Let the words land. Let them sink in. Look around. Tyler gestured to the bikers, the cameras, the FBI agents, the dawn breaking over a city waking up to watch justice happen. 2,800 people came for nobody. Final statement, the one that would be replayed on news channels for weeks, the one that would become a rallying cry for reform. And you have got no one. You are going to spend the rest of your life in a cage, alone, just like you deserve. Marcus lunged, stupid move, handcuffed, surrounded by agents, 2,000 hostile witnesses. But rage makes people stupid, makes them reveal the violence they have been hiding under expensive suits and practiced smiles. The bikers moved, formed a wall, caught him, held him while FBI regained control. Mike Torres looked Marcus in the eye, the same Mike who had voted against taking Tyler in, who had learned that some votes you regret forever if you get them wrong. You are not worth the paperwork. They loaded Marcus into the SUV. 30 feet away, Patricia Hammond was being led from another vehicle, crying, mascara running, screaming loud enough for cameras to hear. I was just following orders. I did what I was told. This is not fair. Dylan Matthews walked over with his tablet, screen facing outward, her texts on loop. For $2,000, I will look the other way on anything. The messages she sent Marcus coordinating Rachel's assault, the photos she took for insurance. The crowd began to chant. Low at first. Building. 147 names. Children failed by this system. Every name spoken aloud. Every child remembered. Every victim given voice. Hammond heard them as they loaded her into the transport. She would hear them in her nightmares for the rest of her life, would hear them in her cell at night, would hear them every time she closed her eyes and tried to pretend she had just been following orders. A white Mercedes pulled up. Wrong time, wrong place. Sandra Crawford stepped out. Designer clothes, confused expression. She had not been arrested yet. Had come to pick up her husband. Had no idea what she was walking into. She saw cameras, bikers, FBI walking toward her with purpose. A reporter reached her first. Microphone extended like an accusation. Mrs. Crawford, can you comment on allegations your charity laundered money stolen from abuse victims? I do not know what you are talking about. Documents show your organization received over $200,000 from Marcus Kane's accounts. Money taken from murdered women and displaced children. Sandra looked at the cameras, the bikers, the FBI closing distance, made a calculation, decided which side of history she wanted to be on. She faced the crowd, announced loudly, clear enough for every microphone to catch. I want a divorce. William Crawford is a monster. I had no idea what he was doing, but I will cooperate fully. I am not going down for his crimes. They arrested her while she was still talking, leading her away while she shouted about cooperation and immunity and how she had always suspected something was wrong, but had been too afraid to ask questions. Judge Crawford watched from a transport vehicle, saw his wife throw him under the bus on live television, saw 30 years of marriage dissolve in the time it took her to decide that freedom mattered more than loyalty. His face went pale. Something died behind his eyes, but the real miracle was happening 30 miles away. The call came at 11:47, 16 hours after Marcus's arrest. Jack was at the clubhouse surrounded by brothers still processing what had happened. News coverage nonstop. Every channel running footage of the arrests, the wall of bikers, Tyler's speech, social media exploding with people demanding reform, demanding accountability, demanding that the system finally do what it was supposed to do. But Jack was not watching television. He was sitting with Tyler in the back room, neither speaking, both waiting for something they were afraid to name. Tyler had not let go of the medallion since the courthouse, fingers tracing the engraved words over and over. I will always find my way to you. A promise his mother had made when he was small, before the diagnosis, before Marcus, before everything went wrong. When Jack's phone rang, he almost did not answer, did not want to hear bad news, did not want to learn that despite everything, some battles cannot be won. But he answered, Dr. Sarah Mitchell's voice, different, something like wonder underneath the professional composure. Mr. Rivers, you need to get to the hospital. Now, what happened? Is she? She is awake. Jack's heart stopped. That is not possible. The swelling, the brain damage. You said. I know what I said. I cannot explain it. None of us can. Dr. Mitchell's voice cracked. 20 years of medicine. 20 years of learning what the human body can and cannot do. And this was rewriting everything. 16 hours ago, her neural activity spiked. 8 hours ago, she started responding to stimuli. 2 hours ago, she opened her eyes. 30 minutes ago, she spoke. What did she say? She said, "Where is my son?" The ride to Maricopa County Medical Center took 17 minutes. Jack drove like devils were chasing. Tyler pressed against his back. Shadow in the sidecar with Mike Torres following behind. Both of them finally warm, finally safe. Finally breathing without constant terror. The parking lot was chaos. News vans, cameras, word had gotten out. The mother in a coma for 3 weeks, waking up the same day her abuser was arrested. The kind of story that makes people believe in something larger than coincidence. Something that sounds like hope. Jack did not stop for questions. Took Tyler's hand and pushed through the crowd, through the lobby, into the elevator, 4th floor, ICU. Dr. Mitchell was waiting. She looked like she had been crying. Professional composure cracked, revealing the human underneath who had chosen medicine because she believed in miracles even when evidence suggested otherwise. She is stable, confused, no memory of the attack. Common with traumatic brain injuries. Last thing she remembers is going to bed the night before Marcus. She paused, chose words carefully. We told her Marcus is in custody. Tyler is safe. Did not give details. Did not want to overwhelm her. Does she know about everything else? No, she has been asking for Tyler nonstop. I have never seen anything like it. Patients with her level of injury do not just recover. They do not wake up asking for their children. Dr. Mitchell shook her head. It is like something was keeping her here. Keeping her fighting. Like she heard him calling and refused to let go until she could answer. Outside room 417, Jack knelt down to Tyler's level. Ready? Tyler did not answer. Just pushed open the door. The room was small, bright, soft beeping of machines. Antiseptic smell mixing with something that might have been hope. And in the bed, propped against pillows, bandages still covering parts of her skull, tubes running into her arms, Rachel Morgan opened her eyes. Nobody moved. The moment suspended. Fragile, like breathing too hard might shatter it. Then Tyler made a sound. Broken, keening, the sound of grief and relief and love all tangled together. He ran to her. Baby. Rachel's voice was hoarse, damaged by weeks of silence, rough around the edges. But the love was unmistakable, clear, the kind that survives brain damage and comas in men with baseball bats. Oh, baby, I am so sorry. I am so sorry I left you. You did not leave. Tyler was sobbing, pressing his face against her shoulder, holding on like letting go meant disappearing. You did not leave. You were fighting. I knew you were fighting. I heard you. Rachel's arms wrapped around him, weak but determined, hands that had forgotten how to move, remembering the most important thing, how to hold her son. I do not know how, but I heard you. In the dark, when everything was nothing, I heard you calling, and I followed your voice back. Tyler pulled back just enough to show her the medallion. Silver disc, worn edges, engraved promise. You promised. You promised you would always find your way to me. Rachel's eyes filled with tears, the kind that heal instead of hurt. I did. I found my way. Jack stood in the doorway watching. This was what it looked like when the universe got it right. When good people won and bad people lost, and mothers held their sons after weeks of darkness. He thought about his own mother, dead 38 years, the hug he never got, the reunion that would never happen. And he made a decision. Text appeared on the screen. White letters on black background. The kind that appears in documentaries when they want you to understand that what came before was prologue and what comes next is legacy. Marcus Kane, 7 life sentences, no parole, federal charges for racketeering, conspiracy, fraud, state charges for attempted murder and child endangerment. Additional charges pending as investigations into Melissa Harper, Rebecca Holloway, Janet Morrison, and Linda Park were reopened. Patricia Hammond, 22 years federal prison. Conspiracy, obstruction of justice, child endangerment, lost social work license, barred from ever working with children. David Foster, 18 years federal prison, fraud, conspiracy, money laundering. Disbarred. Assets seized to compensate victims. Detective Stephen Blake. 15 years state prison. Obstruction of justice, corruption, conspiracy. Lost pension. Badge surrendered. Judge William Crawford. Removed from bench. Disbarred. Pension revoked. Federal charges pending. Wife divorced him and cooperated with prosecutors in exchange for reduced charges. Tyler's Law. Passed in Arizona February 2019. Requiring cross-referencing of all custody cases with domestic violence databases. Mandatory independent review of Child Protective Services worker decisions. Financial audits of guardians receiving foster or adoption payments. Whistleblower protections for social workers reporting corruption. Spread to 22 other states by 2026. California, Nevada, New Mexico, Texas, Colorado, Utah, Oregon, Washington, Florida, Georgia, North Carolina, Illinois, Ohio, Pennsylvania, New York, Massachusetts, Michigan, Wisconsin, Minnesota, Iowa, Kansas, Missouri. Soldiers for Children Foundation. Founded April 2018. Board members including Cole Bishop, Jack Rivers, Rachel Morgan, Dr. Sarah Mitchell, and Mike Torres. Mission to rescue children from abuse and neglect. Provide emergency shelter, legal advocacy, mental health services, educational support. First 3 years, 431 children helped, 89 emergency rescues, 212 placed in safe environments, 130 receiving ongoing therapy and support. But numbers only tell part of the story. The real story is what happened 5 years later. February 2023. A motorcycle pulled off a dark highway in a Phoenix suburb that had never recovered from the recession. Same neighborhood where Jack had found Tyler. Same foreclosure signs. Same boarded windows. Same darkness. The rider was 13 now, tall for his age. Leather jacket with Junior Angel on the back. Legal adoption finalized in 2019. Tyler Rivers, son of Jack Rivers, brother to every broken kid who needed someone to come looking. His passenger was 55. Graying hair, scars that told stories, eyes that had seen too much and decided that seeing more was better than looking away. Jack killed the engine. Why are we stopping? Thought I heard something. They listened, night quiet pressing against eardrums. Arizona desert in February, cold enough to see your breath, quiet enough to hear your heartbeat. Then from the darkness of an abandoned house came a sound Tyler recognized. The sound that had changed his life 5 years ago. The sound Jack had followed into a side yard where hope had gone to die, a whimper. Tyler was off the bike before Jack could stop him. Walked through the overgrown yard, past a foreclosure sign barely legible, toward the sound that pulled him forward like gravity. It led him to the crawl space beneath the porch. And there, curled into a ball, was a girl. 6 years old, maybe 7. Fear and hunger had stolen the softness from her face. Left behind the same hollowed expression Tyler remembered from his own reflection 5 years ago. She looked up at him with eyes that held nothing. Not fear, not hope, just emptiness. The flat, dead gaze of someone who had stopped expecting anything from the world. Tyler knew that look, had lived it, had seen it in the mirror every morning for months after Jack found him. Had learned slowly, painfully, that eyes could remember how to hold light if someone bothered to show them. He crouched down, made himself smaller, less threatening. Hey, my name is Tyler. I know you are scared. I know you think no one is coming. I know you have probably stopped believing anyone cares. The girl did not respond. But I am here, and I am not leaving without you. He extended his hand slowly, palm up, offering, not demanding. Someone found me once, in a place just like this. He did not give up on me, and I am not giving up on you. For a long moment, nothing, just wind and darkness and the sound of a city sleeping while a girl decided whether to trust. Then her hand, small and dirty and trembling, reached out, took his. Jack watched his son lead the girl from under the porch, watched him take off his jacket and wrap it around her shoulders, watched him speak in low, gentle tones that carried the weight of experience no 13-year-old should have, and understood what this had all been for. Not revenge, not justice, not even rescue. Legacy, the chain of pain stretching back through generations, through Jack's father and his father before, through every child broken by people supposed to protect them, through every system that failed and every adult who looked away. That chain was broken, not with violence, not with anger, with the decision to stop and listen when you hear a whimper in darkness, to reach out your hand to someone who has forgotten that hands can do anything but hurt, To say, I see you, I hear you, you matter. Jack walked over. What is your name, sweetheart? The girl looked up at this scarred man in leather. Something flickered in her eyes, not trust, not yet, but the beginning of something that might become trust. Lily, she whispered. Jack pulled out his phone, called the network that actually gave a damn. FBI 80 Special Agent Rebecca Morgan, Soldiers for Children, Foundation Emergency Line, Dr. Sarah Mitchell, Rachel Morgan, who now ran advocacy programs for the foundation. The cavalry was coming. The army that had assembled for Tyler 5 years ago, ready to assemble again. Because some battles you keep fighting, some children you keep saving, some promises you keep making until the world learns that nobody means everybody. Let me tell you about a place where you will be safe, Jack said. Lily looked at Tyler, the boy who had found her, who had known exactly where to look because he had been exactly where she was. He is telling the truth, Tyler said. I know it is hard to believe. I did not believe it either. But there are people who show up for kids like us, people who do not give up. He held out his hand again. Come on, let me show you. Lily took it. Together they walked toward the motorcycle, toward phone calls that would set everything in motion, toward a future that seemed impossible minutes ago. Behind them, the abandoned house stood dark, a monument to failure, to systems that break, to adults who forget that children are watching and learning and deciding whether the world is a place worth staying in. In front of them, the headlight of Jack's Harley, the glow of a phone connecting them to people who cared, to a foundation built on the principle that every child deserves someone to come looking. Hope, stubborn, stupid, inexplicable hope, the kind that made a biker stop to pee at 2 in the morning, the kind that made a boy in a doghouse protect a starving dog instead of giving up, the kind that made 2,800 enemies ride together for a child they had never met. Jack called it something simpler, being human. And on that dark highway, humanity won again. Final text on screen, white letters, black background, the kind that stays after the story ends and the lights come up and people walk out into the world remembering. Tyler Rivers, now 18, runs Soldiers for Children Foundation Youth Outreach Program. He has personally helped rescue 47 children. Shadow lived to age 13, died peacefully with Tyler holding him. Every rescue dog at the foundation is named after Shadow's lineage. 147 names from Marcus Kane's network, all accounted for. 89 found safe. 9 deaths resulted in murder convictions. Emma Morrison located in 2021, reunited with family. Tyler's Law, active in 23 states as of 2026. Credited with preventing an estimated 200 cases of child abuse through improved oversight and mandatory cross-referencing. 2,800 bikers who came for one child. Continue annual ride every February 15th. They call it the Ride for Nobody, because every child matters, even the ones the system forgot, especially them. The chain is broken. The legacy continues. One person can change the world, but it takes a village to keep the world changed. It takes 2,800 people willing to stand in silence outside a courthouse. It takes a foundation built on the ruins of corruption. It takes laws named after children who survived. It takes teenagers who remember what darkness feels like and refuse to let others drown in it. It takes being human when the world makes it easy to be anything else. Fade to black. Split screen. Left side, Tyler at 8 in the doghouse with Shadow. Right side, Tyler at 18 with Lily at the foundation. Same eyes, but the left side empty. The right side alive with purpose. Based on the principle that nobody means everybody. That coming for one means coming for all. That the measure of a society is how it treats its most vulnerable. And that sometimes, just sometimes, the good guys win. And